What I'll do is just basically start from the top. I'm assuming that most of you are musicians who are looking to play online, because that's what the webinar is about, right? So have you played online before, or is it something you're looking into, or is it something you're just sort of, that is an amorphous idea floating around in the back of your head at this stage? I'm assuming, all right, you're interested enough to be here, which is great. So you're probably musicians that have played in a live scenario. Now, the playing online, welcome John. Playing online is basically one of those things that needs to become sort of an integral part of what musicians do to sort of promote themselves and up engagement in their music. The reason for that is because a lot of people actually don't have the time or the money to go out and play gigs, to go out and see gigs. Musicians themselves are having an increasingly difficult time in actually finding people who will book them, because a lot of bookers are getting very sort of cautious and cagey about booking new bands or bands that they haven't seen play in a while. So with gigs getting harder to find for musicians, and gigs getting more expensive to go to and more few and far between for viewers, it makes a lot of sense to play online, particularly because you're actually playing to an international audience. There's also a mass of people, this is literally millions of people, who are already engaged in viewing online performance across the webcam platforms, the VR platforms. There are literally millions of people a day who go and see online shows. So if you're not one of the people playing online shows, you're missing out. The other reason is that a lot of people think that pushing your music online is all about uploading a bunch of MP3 files and things. Sadly, studies have shown, there's a guy called Jay Frank who's put out a book called Future Hits DNA. I find it to be a horrible little book, but he's got a lot of facts in there, and the facts are that people will engage with pre-recorded music for approximately 10 to 15 seconds before making up their mind as to whether they want to hear the rest of it. Now, that's a really low level of engagement. Of course, what he suggests we do, because he comes from a big record company background, right, is that we throw the hooks in the first 10 seconds, which is a part I find revolting. The other option, of course, is to look for ways to present your music which have an inherently higher level of engagement. So instead of just sticking to what industry knows, which is putting some MP3s online, it's not very imaginative, right? I'm thinking of other ways that musicians can get out there that have inherent, levels of engagement that are a lot higher. Now, if you think about like staying at home doing your housework sort of thing, if you tune into the radio, it's a very similar scenario to what Jay Frank talks about, where you'll sort of turn the dial, and if it doesn't engage you in the few seconds, you'll keep turning that dial until it's pretty much something that you recognise, already know and already like, right? This is not what you want people to be doing as an indie musician. You want them to be going into some kind of context where they're going to go, oh, that's different, I'm going to listen. So it's a lot more like the traditional world live performance thing, where you go along, if someone's going to a show, they're going to mill around a bit, they're going to buy a beer, they're going to wait for their friends. Even if they think the first song of the band is particularly horrible, they'll just sort of look on in horror, and they'll usually give you 3 songs at least, rather than about 3 seconds. So live performance has always been inherently more engaging for people, and that the same goes online. So that's just some of the reasons why you should be playing online, right? There's a load of people watching it. We need to be doing this as indie musicians to get round the sort of whole gatekeeper scenario of booking agents, and also to involve ourselves in something that has a high level of engagement. Of course, there are many other reasons, including you can actually make a living from it. Everyone knows who's toured. It costs a hell of a lot, and sometimes if you've got a leg of a tour that's a disaster, it can actually financially ruin you, as I found out this weekend. But online, the risks are not that high at all. You're doing it at home in your pajamas. There are just about 0 overheads. So it's a very safe and easily accessible thing to do. So that's the why, playing online. And hello, Geo. I've just noticed. Yeah, Cherry, welcome along. Who else have we got out there? We've got John, Banjo, Bob. It's good to see you guys. So that's basically the why of online performance. The how of online performance is where it's a little bit more tricky, but not as tricky as you might think. This is you're actually in the right place already, because I've played online for many years now. There are 2 basic kind of setups for playing online. One is the virtual realities, and the other is the webcam-based platforms. Now, VRs are all very, very similar to each other, but what they've got in common is they're hideously complex. And when I first started playing in them, I remember being in tears on several occasions because I couldn't work out how to use them, right? And I'm a trained software engineer, so it was embarrassing. But the webcam ones, there's a lot of variation. Some of them are kind of complex, and some of them are very simple and very user-friendly. NuMuBu is the most user-friendly webcam performance I have ever had the pleasure of working in. And that's actually how I met these guys. I'm not doing this because because they've told me to say so. That's how I met them. So it is a very simple setup. 2 bits of equipment are the key things that you need. And so if you have any questions about this part, do let me know. Just hit me with it. The one is obviously the webcam. It's a webcam-based platform, right? In virtual realities, you don't necessarily need a webcam. You can if you like, but you need a webcam and a webcam-based platform. You also need an audio interface card. Now, regardless of what kind of setup you have, whether you're a soloist, a duo, a band, an orchestra, you need an audio interface card. If you are an orchestra, you'll also need a mixing desk, right? If you're a band, you probably will too, but every soloist needs a mixing desk. We get a lot of people coming through NuMuBu who are wondering why their sound is stuttery or there's something wrong with it. They're generally trying to get away with plugging directly into their computer. Your computer has an onboard sound card, yes. It's usually going to be a crap one. The audio interface card is a separate card, what we used to call external sound cards. They have processors on board which will take care of the signal processing for you, so that a smooth delivery to the CPU, your CPU is not having to waste its resources on sound processing. And you'll get a smooth sound going out to people who are tuned in. Now, any questions at this point before I carry on with the more techie side of things? Do fire them in. Now and again I miss them because I'm in mid-rant. So far not? Okay. So, I'm going to ask this question again because last time you guys didn't let me know, but I know some of you have tried this before. I see Gio out there and he's tried this before. Have you guys actually tried online performance yet? Let me know if you haven't done it yet. So just type in the chat. Hey, Piers. Peers, as far as I know, no, they're just the same as, everyone's using mass-produced onboard sound cards. I'm not a Mac user, so I can't claim to be an expert on that one, but I'm guessing no, that anything that's sort of mass-produced is not going to be rigged up specifically so that it's got optimized sound. I just say to people, basically, you should always get an audio interface card. They aren't expensive, this is the other thing. The one that I recommend is very, very good. It's portable, so if you're traveling and broadcasting, it's great. If you don't have a mixing desk, it's also great because it has this very simple but useful feature, the mono button. It is the Steinberg CI1. I will type this in here. Now that retails at about, when I last looked, it was about €90. So I don't know what that is in US dollars, but someone might be able to look it up for me. But basically, it's just got these 2 inputs. So if you are, let's say, a singer-songwriter, there are a hell of a lot of singer-songwriters playing online because it really does work financially if you are one. You can plug your vocal into one hole and your guitar into the other hole. And with a lot of audio interface cards, what that means is your vocal will go on the left channel, your guitar will go on the right, and the listener will get one in each ear, which is not very nice. That's why there's a mono button on there to stop that from happening. So that is the most basic setup you can have. Do not go plugging into your straight into your laptop or into your desktop, even if you have a Mac. There's a lot of branding about Macs being better machines for audio and visuals. It's not true anymore. It's Apple. They cut corners all over the place. So don't think that. Get an audio interface card. Right, US dollars about 135 for the Steinberg CI1. So you do also get some quite nice software with it. It can be a pain if you're trying to install things quickly, but there's some nice software there too. The Lexicon Alpha Geo, is that working well for you actually? Because last time we spoke, I don't think you told me which one worked. Yeah, that's the thing with the Steinberg ones. You can actually pick them up for less quite often. I think if you're in Europe, try tomman.com. I'll write that in because they are the cheapest place I know. And they just about are never undercuttable. They do things very cheaply and they send things out to the UK for 10 quid. They've also got a really good returns policy. But yeah, if anyone else has got ones that they've used that they've found to be good, please do type them in. I can unrecommend, as in under no circumstance. Well, yeah, but if you've got any other option, don't use M Audio because they're absolutely horrible. They are not compatible with Windows 7 if you're running Windows 7, and if you're trying to run other sequencing programs, they will crash with them. There are particular problems with Sonar that they have not bothered to update and show no signs of wanting to update. The forums have been asking them to for 3 years and they won't. So avoid M-Audio. Do go for that one, Geo, the Lexicon. Yeah, that's a reputed brand. Other reputed brands I could recommend are Marker the Unicorn. They do some great sound cards. And of course Steinberg and PreSonus as well. So, yeah, Focusrite are great, actually, Cherry. They are. They're really good too. Yeah. Wait a minute. I'll just read your question quickly because I'm short-sighted. I see what you mean. Is that for when you're plugging in your instrument? So you're plugging everything in the one mono channel, Cherry? Yeah, that Roland was good, Cliff. Yeah. Yeah, Cherry, what you ideally what you need to be doing, and this is the thing, some of the cards that we've talked about being good cards, they are good cards, but they don't have the option to actually to pan particular channels. So it might be the case that you're getting vocals in one ear and guitar in the other. You can of course get around that with a mixing desk. Now my own setup is well, I can't pull the bits out. Anyway, there's a mixing desk. I can probably move the camera. This is an Alesis thing here. You can see those coloured cables. One's got a yellow band on it, one's got a red band on it, right? That's just running from if you were doing a live gig, those would be running to the front of house speakers. Okay, instead they're actually running to my sound card. It's only got 2 inputs on it, so I'm using them as left and right. And that way I get round the issues with things being panned to left and right. So I'm just taking 2 out of the mixing desk. So I have to re-rig this up. God, what am I doing? I won't be doing that again. So it's coming something out of the main out that would go to the front of house speakers on the desk, and instead of taking those lines to the front of house speakers, I'm taking one to left input and one to right input. So I've got all sounds coming in both ears. You could probably see that the only thing plugged into that mixing desk is this microphone today. Usually it's got 2 loopers and a whole bunch of stuff, but everything is coming out of that same stereo out pair, which would go to the front of house speakers, but is instead going to the audio interface card. Cherry, I've heard lots of people say I use Ableton. Are you mixing in Ableton in the software? And yeah, you can route from the software to the stream, yes. I'm no expert in how to do that, but that is another way around it. So yeah, if you've got a really good audio interface card, you might have this niggly issue of not having a true stereo sound, and that one thing will be coming in one ear and one will be going in the other ear. But there are a lot of workarounds to that. The simplest one I found, if you like hardware interfaces, is just get a mixing desk. Get a cheap, crappy one is fine. Mine's fairly cheap and crappy, though I'm lucky enough that it's got reverb on it, which is another nice to have for online performance, because if you are plugging straight in to an audio interface, the sound can be quite dry. If you don't want to, if you've got the stereo thing sorted and you don't want to be paying for effects, just make sure the room's got a nice sort of, live sound to it. I've heard a lot of singers like Terry Lynn. I don't think she uses any effects, but the room that she plays in has got a really nice reverb to it. So it sounds just very full and rich and natural and not at all dry. So that is the other way around that. So it is actually cheap. It's possible to do online performance very cheaply, i.e. with a small initial outlay. Lots of people happen to have mixing desks lying around anyway, and audio interfaces are not expensive. Webcams are even cheaper. I use 40 quid webcams, and it totally suffices. In fact, the worse the webcam, the younger you look, because it blurs. Yes, I mean, I do actually like the Alesis ones pairs. I've used them for years now, so yeah, it's just, it did happen to be cheap because I got it off eBay. But no, I think new they're actually quite dear, the ones that I've got. I'm just going to scroll down in case I've... Right, and if I have missed a question, do repeat it, because I do when I'm talking. I'm not very good at multitasking, so if you asked something and I appear to have skipped over it, just ask again, that's fine. Marco, welcome along. And AJ, good to see you. So we've got a couple of you in the room that do this regularly. And there'll be there'll be doubtless more of you that haven't tried this yet. So are there any questions pertaining to the setup and those things before the best upload bandwidth, Nikki. Now that depends on where you are broadcasting from. And in NuMuBu, well, actually in all of them, get as much up speed as you can. I always recommend that people use a wired connection. There are some very good wireless products out there. We happened to use one actually while we were streaming from NAM for NuMuBu, but it was a really dedicated and expensive bit of hardware. Most of the home wireless options will occasionally suffer from dropouts. So to be on the safe side, I just go for a hardwired connection. The connection I have here has got upload speeds of up to 10 megabits a second. It's not necessary to have it that high. What's necessary is the consistency. Now, when you broadcast on the VR, the sound is separate from the video. So I just happen to know because the bit of software I use in the virtual reality tells me the speed that I'm uploading at. I'm actually only uploading at 128 kilobits a second. That's not very much, right? But the video actually takes up a lot more bandwidth. Now, in the webcam platforms, they're not separate. Okay, so it can look like it's more. However, do remember if you're playing in the VRs, there's also the whole down and upload of the virtual reality itself going on. So they're about the same, but it's not as high as you might think. But what's important is consistency. Yep, exactly, Piers. Dead right. Yep. Now, of course, if you're in the situation where you're touring and you have to be wireless, then you just make sure you ask your service provider about average upload speeds and what sort of dropout rates they're getting. Cliff, what was that one we used in the States, just for the people that are in the States? Because that was a really, really good one. And I don't think we ever had a dropout with that one. It was a wireless solution. There are other things you can do to get around it. There are signal strengtheners for wireless connections, so you can look into those as well. But if you're broadcasting from home, there's kind of no point going to that expense. Just hardwire it. I mean, mine is duct taped into the back of my machine, so that that's what I use each time. Nikki, there shouldn't be any breaks from NuMuBu's end, because don't forget what you're doing is you're upstreaming to NuMuBu. Now, NuMuBu's got really solid servers, and they're the part that you can pretty much rely on. From the years of streaming and knowing my own limits, the things that go wrong are usually the user end, or the sort of random acts of the internet. I mean, they do happen as well. But from my side, I've had Virgin. I'm with Virgin, the internet provider here, and all sorts of random things happen with Virgin. And I've been with Sky before. They're even worse. In Germany, I was with Arcor, and they were terrible. But it was not the sites I was streaming to that were the issues. Yeah, with wireless, it depends again. It's the user end. So we are uploading to NuMuBu, who then just sort of broadcasts it down to everybody else. So it's usually the upload where things are going wrong from the end of us, we the players. Oh, exactly, Nikki. Yeah, I mean, basically you just learn to laugh about it because, yes, especially your first time, it's sort of anything that can go wrong will go wrong because there are so many things to worry about. But as a performer, I find it quite refreshing, I have to admit, because I used to think if one thing goes wrong in a performance, the whole thing is ruined. I may as well walk off stage now, diva. But playing online, it's actually, you get a really sort of healthy attitude about mistakes. Mistakes happen, and what people are interested in is actually the passion and the songwriting, the overall picture. The tiny details are actually not always what's important. What's important is being able to chat and being able to see different people creating things. It's not whether now and again they fall into a black hole and the gig is stopped. Piers, really? I'm from New Zealand. We've got quite a few hills. It still worked. But I know what you mean. Yeah, with wireless, all sorts of things can make it tricky. Actually, I did live in a trailer park in Auckland for quite some time, and it was a really I guess what do you call it? Just wet sort of climate, and yeah, now the weather would make the wireless connection stop working. It was most odd. Yeah, mistakes. Yeah, that's the thing, Gio. I used to, if I had made one mistake, I would then freak out for the rest of the gig. But because it happens so often online, and everyone knows it's often not your fault. It's not the fault of the place where you're playing. There's a whole lot of random acts of the cyber gremlins that you do sort of just learn to live with it, and it helps your performance a great deal. I found it helps mine. I use loopers, so I make mistakes all the time, but I don't panic anymore, which is good. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good humour. Yeah. Yes, as my mother always used to say, life is a continuous series of opportunities to make a complete cock of yourself. She's not wrong. Yeah, she's good like that. Comedy music performance. I think to some extent it often ends up being like that, Nikki, because one of the other big key elements of online performance that a lot of people who get into online performing and haven't done it before don't realise is a lot of it is about community. Because I mean, look, we're having fun partly because we get to interact with each other and crack jokes. And at the shows in traditional venues, people sometimes say things, but you can't often tell what they're saying. I played O2 on the weekend in London, and there were lots of my friends there, actually, a couple of people who we see each other in NuMuBu regularly, and they were sort of yelling things from over there, and I had no idea what they were really saying, so you can't have any proper repartee. And also, if you're playing online, you often do it. You'll choose a day, particularly in the NuMuBu and the webcam platforms. It works really well to say I'm gonna pick a particular day of the week, and people will build that into their lives, and you end up really looking forward to it. I play in here on a Wednesday, every Wednesday at this time, and it's so much fun because you guys that come along are just a great source of like a social inspiration to me as well, and that is a big part of the online performance thing. It's not so much that kind of rock star on the stage and you people down there thing. So there's a lot more connection about it. You can, Geo, go for it. Oh, there is Cliff. Well, this is the thing, it's performance art. I mean, the thing about NuMuBu is, you can actually stream anything in here you want. We do product demos and things as well, because heaps of us are musicians, so we're interested in, what kind of new tech is out there, what does the cool things we want to be done, guitar processes and things like that. Okay, Gio, I'm just reading what you wrote. Sorry, 'cause I can't talk and read at the same time. So Gio, are you looking to stream the pre-recorded part and play along to it? Because plenty of people do that, so it's not, some people can get a bit snobby about it, but most of them realise that, you can't actually drag the whole band into your bedroom and make them play, so they'd rather just hear your ideas. So, yeah, no, I mean, absolutely do it. I use lots of machine noise and industrial ambiences, right? They're always pre-recorded because I can't just drag an engine room into my bedroom, So I will just those are all already in the loopers I use. I trigger them with my foot, but it's still a pre-recorded noise. I mean, most music these days does use some element of pre-recorded stuff. That the band I played with on the weekend, they've got what you could call backing tracks, and there's no synth player, so the synth is running from a CD. So I think that's perfectly acceptable. They do, Nikki. There's in the mobile we're all about sort of live organic performance, and there's a face and we interact and things. Some of the virtual realities do have DJs and things. It's not my cup of tea, but some people really love it, and so you do get DJs going in there and doing sets and avatars dancing. So yes, I mean, it's just basically the online world is not subject to the same kind of prejudices and restrictions that the offline world is. So people have learned. It's really nice. I mean, people still prefer one thing over the other, but there's no snobbery that says, you can't do this, you can't do that. You can do whatever you want. Yeah. You're going to find an audience for all of it too. This is the other thing. If you think about the fact there are several million people in the world. Now, some of us do music that not everyone's going to like. For example, bloodthirsty Celtic songs where everyone dies at the end. Not everyone's going to like that, right? But let's pretend that 1% of the world likes what I do, which is, it's possible. That seems realistic. 1% of billions of people is a hell of a lot of people. So, basically, online performance gives us the opportunity to go out and find those people, and for those people to find our music. Whereas if we just lived in some hideous little small town in the north of England, we're not going to find the people that will like our music. So it's really a massive opportunity. Nikki, they can archive them here. Cliff, I can't remember whether we have to ask if we want them archived or not. So Nikki, are you performing yourself, or are you with the house concerts people? Because I remember your name from somewhere. Oh, and hey, Marco and Chris, I think I said hi. Haha, that is a really good pairing, eh? Honestly, being a musician these days, it's you need to know your way around the legal stuff. Right, so guys, there's quite a few of you out there now. Some of you might have walked in sort of halfway through and be wondering what's going on. Do not be afraid to ask. This is, basically it's such a rich and vibrant online community, but we want more people playing online so that we get to see you all playing online. And that is the point of the online music scene. So if you feel like you've just missed something out and missed out on something and would like me to backtrack, please do just fire away. So basically, where we got to was okay. The why reasons of playing online. There's so many of them. I could go on for hours, but the how is basically comes down to two bits of equipment: your webcam and your audio interface. The very nitty gritty of starting to play in NuMuBu, which I recommend all of you do, because this is where you're not going to get freaked out by the learning curve. Now, think things will go wrong because they just do, but it won't take you that long to figure them out. This is by far the easiest place to try, but not just that, even if it wasn't the easiest place to try, it actually ticks all the other boxes in terms of online performance. So it's the best place to stay as well. I mean, you can earn money from it. They're not putting barriers in front of the user, the listeners, and you, and all these other things. So in NuMuBu, all you do is you set up a profile, because NuMuBu has this very clever way of combining social media with online performance. The social media leads to some of its other benefits. You've got a floating audience. So it's not just you inviting the same mates every time. There are people on NuMuBu talking about music. So anyway, you set up a profile like you would on Facebook or Reverb Nation or whatever. And once you've got a profile page, there's just going to be a little green button on one side, left from right, on your left-hand side, that says Go Live Now. Once you hit that button, if you've got your webcam plugged in and your audio interface plugged in, you just get this window that appears, and we'll actually start looking at your webcam feed and your audio interface feed, and just throwing that out to anyone who knows you're there. How people know you're there? They've either browsed the NuMuBu page or they've come to your profile page where there's another button that says Join Broadcast. You can see this window that I'm in here, right? If I right click on it from my end, it actually shows me which audio feed I'm using and which video feed I'm using. Because there's one little caveat that happens to everyone online, is that if you right click and find out the feed, sometimes the audio feed will be your webcam's microphone. It's horrible. It's even worse than using your onboard one. Fortunately, with NuMuBu, their software seems to default to, I don't know how they do this, Cliff. Does it just poll the most expensive gadget and use that? Anyway, it doesn't seem to default to the webcam gig, but I do know that it's happened because it's happened to me on other sites as well, so it can happen. It helps to check, but that's as complex as it gets. If you want to broadcast from NuMuBu, you set up your profile page, hit Go Live. At worst, you're going to be there might be the wrong audio source, but you can fix that relatively quickly. Do I have some kind of, here's a typical setup you could use? I do. There's actually a book, Piers, because there's typical setup will depend on how many people there are in the band. Okay, so this is Gigs in Space, which you can actually get through NuMuBu if you're in the USA, or through me. It's gigsinspace.com, right, to look up the cheapest way of getting it, because postage can be hideous. But there is a page that has diagrams. It's sort of flicking through. I should actually know exactly what. Here we go. So I don't know if you can see this. How well can you see this? Soloists using a mixing desk. That's bands using a mixing desk. The very simplest one is this one. Right, so this bit in the middle is what I was talking about. Ooh, doing this backwards. Check out how bad my nail polish is. That's pretty hideous. Anyway, this is your audio interface card, right? I've used the Steinberg CI1 there, but most of them not the same. But like I said, the Steinberg CI1 is ideal for this particular setup because it's got a mono button. You might get troubles otherwise. So as you can see, the guitar is in oh god, doing this backwards again. The guitar is in one input, the mic in the other. Your webcam's over here, and your computer is there. It's a very, very simple setup. On the screen of your computer would be the NuMuBu page where your profile is. Gigsinspace.com, that's right. So that's basically it. That's why I mean, yeah, starting in here is simple. If you want to get into the VRs, I still recommend that you should actually always do both. You should play in the VRs and the webcam places. The VRs take a lot of getting your head around. The other thing is income patterns. The webcam gigs can be incredibly lucrative and then just completely not, because some weeks you'll get people tipping you large amounts of money, and other weeks they may not at all. So it's quite variable. However, the potential for some kind of sustainable income and getting your music links out there is really good. The virtual realities are a lot more consistent because you can charge a fee. However, they're sort of consistent and lower, if that makes any sense. So combining the two just means you've got a better handle of what's potentially coming in, because if you ever want to jump in the deep end and just do this for a living, like I do, be prepared for things to sometimes go financially horribly, but it's still worth it because you're doing what you love. But those things can be quite important, is just knowing how to gauge what's sort of coming in reliably and what may or may not come in. So I always recommend using both platforms, but in every case you should be playing the webcams, and you should start in here. That mono thing again. Chris, yeah, you might have walked in at a funny point there. Just if you are using the very basic setup, this one that I still on that page, this one here. So the very basic setup, you can see you've got an instrument going into that guitar cartoon, right? It's going into one of the audio inputs. The mic is going into the other audio input. Those are the holes in inputs. They're doing other things. So they've got basically the simple cards have got two inputs. You've got a guitar in one and a vocal in another. Now most sound cards, what they'll do is they'll pan the guitar to one side and the vocal to the other. And that's normal in a recording setting, right? Because they're just mono channels. However, if you're using that to broadcast, the listener is going to get your guitar in one ear and your vocal in the other ear, which just sounds a bit weird. It's not the end of the world, but it's a kind of weird thing to listen to. So the Steinberg CI1 audio interface card, it actually has a mono button on it. And I haven't seen a mono button on any of the other cards I've used. So if you just want to keep your initial cost to a minimum and only buy an audio interface card, not buy effects, not buy a mixing desk, then that is the card I recommend, because you just press that button and suddenly everyone gets, music and guitar in both ears and it sounds fine. So that was what I was on about there. Of course, if you're using, the typical audio interface card, with a mixing desk, that helps you get around that mono stereo issue anyway. Yes, exactly, Piers. Yeah, someone told me they used to do that. I was like, it just sounds so odd if you're on the listening end, and I have been a few times. Yeah, of course they absolutely they stream stereo. Yes, they wouldn't be top of my list if they didn't. I was to atmospheres and panning effects. So yes, they do. Okay, I'm just checking I haven't missed any. Hey, Nathan, my dear, I didn't see you come in. I never know whether to call you Stefan or Nathan. Huge hugs. You already know all this. In fact, Nathan mixed our sound when we were streaming from NAM, so he does know all this. But another musician I hope to see playing here in NuMuBu. It does, as is evidenced by your current name tag. Cool. You better, eh? And make sure it's a time when it's not the middle of the night this time of the world. Actually, which brings me to another point. Time zone can be everything. Now, just checking the time. Once you get into online performance, I've already mentioned that regularity is really important, particularly in the webcam gigs, because the kind of audiences actually vary from your webcam platforms to your virtual realities. Loads of people in virtual realities are self-employed. Some of them are unemployed or on benefits and things, but they've got a lot more time to be online sort of at random times. Whereas for some reason, and I don't know why this is, it just is because I survey my listeners now and again, the webcam people seem to often be like employed elsewhere, so they don't necessarily work from home. What it means is they've got quite busy lives. They have to sort of make something work within a pattern that works for them. So this is why I do my Wednesday night things at the same time every night. I've got people in New Zealand who log on before they go to work, and people in the UK who log on after work, and because it's always the same, they can make sure they're there. So there's that sort of social element. They're seeing their friends again, and I get to see them. They're my friends as well, and that works really well. In terms of like I said, the virtual realities, they are much more sort of fluctuating. Also, the number of people online fluctuates a great deal on there. There seems to be a peak time which is influenced by the American crowd. When are the Americans sort of home after work, or just sort of kicking around? And the largest numbers of people online will be at sort of peak times for America. So if you are trying to break into the American market, or just want to be playing to Americans, because there's heaps of them there, then you should actually aim to be playing at those times. Sadly, if you're in the UK, the peak times are between, I think, 3 in the morning and 6 in the morning. It's quite hideous. Now and again, I do get up that early and do one of those shows, but it's hard to do. So if you are trying to get a good spread in terms of global audience, you'll want to check when people are online so that you're actually hitting those crowds. Yeah, Marco, absolutely. I mean, it's not the easiest way to survive, I have to say, but being a musician never has been. And certainly I was touring around traditional venues and things for decades before I discovered online performance, and it was the online performance aspect that enabled me to quit my job and be a full-time musician. So as you probably all have friends that are musicians, even some incredibly well-known musicians. A very good friend of mine, Tony Pettit from Fields of the Nephilim, he still has a real job, and he's probably 1 billion times more well-known than I am throughout the world, but they don't do the online thing. They broadcast some practices, but they're a band, so they've got to split. They've got to split the money between all of them. I'm a soloist, and I do this all the time. I've made it a part of my lifestyle, and this is the key thing. You've actually just got to make it part of what you do every week or every day so that it works for you. There's no point just doing it sort of randomly and sporadically, because people don't get into the habit of watching. You've got to be very sort of dedicated and savvy about how you do it. But yes, it can be done, and I am certainly not the only one. I've got other friends who play professionally with that mix of on and offline, and I've got a couple of friends who only play online, and they are professional full-time musicians who only play on the web. So you can basically pick and mix whatever works for you. Being an originals musician, I have to be out there touring in the real world as well. I have a couple that I know that do it full-time just online. They do covers, so it is a lot easier for some reason to get tips for covers. But what it means is if you do like playing covers, well, bring it on. You'll get more tips than I do. So it can work, yes. Don't forget too, it's not all about tips and fees, because a lot of the people that you get to know online, because you're playing regularly, you make some of the best friends you've ever made because you see them all the time. You learn their sense of humour. You've also got like a far bigger sort of level of connection with them because you're spending so much time and getting to know them well. So they're very, very supportive people. They're very nice people. They're very generous people. If they don't know what you do, they don't stick around. So what this means is just the fact of playing online is kind of like a filter anyway. The hecklers don't bother. So why turn up to something if you don't like it? They go away. So the people that stay are the people that really, really like what you do. So what it means is if you've got Kickstarter projects and things, they're usually the first to fund it. If you've got albums coming out, they actually want copies, and they're very sort of honourable about music and paying for music. I do get people coming up to me online and saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I haven't bought your album yet." I'm like, "It's only been out for 3 months," and they're like, "Yeah, but I've listened to it a lot on. I'll shut up now," and they get embarrassed, and then they buy the album. And actually, I'm all for piracy, to be perfectly honest, because it falls into that recorded music sort of scenario where people don't have the engagement anyway. So I'm just well aware that the value of it has plummeted. But the good thing about people who come to the online performances, they'll support you because when you're playing, but they actually also very honourable about supporting you in terms of your recorded stuff. Even if they go and listen to it for free on YouTube, who has any objection to that? I certainly don't. So they're very, very supportive and help you just do what you do. They know that you can't otherwise. They know you're kind of screwed without them, really. Does that help answer that? Hey, John, welcome along. Mr. GHS, I think we owe you a big thank you, because it's GHS are some of the people that made it possible for this webinar, and Hi Watt and NuMuBu, of course. So yes, it's quite a nice family and community on here as well, which is part of why I say you should start in NuMuBu. And that's not just because oh, pretty, happy, fluffy, isn't it fun? I mean, the fact that things are fun are what makes things work online anyway. It's one of those things where you're creating your own community, and again, this is about engagement. This is not just playing some video off YouTube where you get no interaction. And these are how communities actually succeed online, and what makes things happen for people that aren't necessarily interested in mainstream culture, which a lot of musicians aren't necessarily. And this is the way to get out there if you're not sort of adhering to stupid gender archetypes or doing something that's inherently been done a million times before. If you've got something to say, this is how you manage to find the space and the people to do it with. It's fantastic. Right, so the techie stuff. Anyone got any more questions on that? Who's in a band, for example? Stefan, you're in a band, aren't you? Or do you play solo? So no guitarist. Who's trying to do this with a band? I know you're in a band, Cliff. I also know you know exactly how to do this. Well, maybe I should say anyway. Again, it's just the scenario with audio interface, webcam. You need a mixing desk. It always helps to think of it as just playing some venue gig like you normally would, right? You've got some DIs going into the mixing desk. You've got some things going straight into the mixing desk. And instead of routing out, you've got that sound that comes out of the main out and goes to the front of house speakers. Instead of that, you just put those very cables in the audio interface card. The one thing you might want to bother with if you're in a band is having multiple cameras, and that can work quite well for viewers. It's nice for us to be able to not just see the whole band from way back for the whole experience. We like to be able to sort of cut in on the bassist, cut in on this and that. Obviously webcams are available relatively cheaply. There's also completely free software called Twist, which helps someone who's manning it to actually switch from one camera source to another, or you can automate it just by timing it. So that can be nice. But I would recommend adding that afterwards, because basically getting your head around the audio and getting a good sound is vital. Now, before we go, I should probably say some things about, yes, Cam Twist, that's right, Cam Twist, not just Twist. My brain's going. Cheers, Cliff. I should probably say some things about promotion of online shows, because it's not like the Wayne's World scenario. If you book them, they will come. There's so many things going on in the internet world that no one knows anything's going on, because you have to shout so loudly that basically you can't just rely on the fact people will figure it out. Cross-pollination is key here. Like with NuMuBu has a really great page where people who are already part of the site and the social milieu here can go and see what's happening, because they've combined social networking with the ability to do live broadcast, and that's one up on just about every site other than NuMuBu on the net. But you've still actually got to go out into things that no one's ever going to stop using, like Facebook and Twitter. So basically you create an event on Facebook, you invite your friends on Facebook, give them instructions saying, this isn't happening in Facebook, you have to go out here. Giving them instructions really helps. Twitter is also a good one to do, particularly as a just before the show kind of promotion, because people on Twitter can be quite spontaneous, so they can actually just sort of jump in and see what's going on. People on Facebook, they tend to need to know in advance, so it helps to set up the event if you can a week in advance, so that people can see it on their list. So there's, in terms of building the social community, you've got to use all the means at your disposal to do that. But again, once people do start to get used to the fact they're playing every Wednesday or every Saturday or whatever it is, it becomes an easier task, because you still invite them, you still set up those events, but they pretty much know to expect it, and they may even start inviting their friends. Often they do. I'm just checking stuff here because I'm at the output, the mic in. Cherry, but you said you were using Ableton Live, right? Because I am no expert in using software to then to route to a stream, because I'm quite a hardware person. I like to have physical dials and things. What it might be doing, because I know there are programs like Sam, which is a DJ program, where you can actually, you're combining the audio source, as in your mic in, that you're plugging direct in, with the audio source that's in software. So what I would do if I was you, and I should recommend this, I should have recommended this anyway, is always have a sound check. If you're doing a show in the NuMuBu, you haven't done one before, get one of your mates to log in. Just don't advertise the broadcast, right? So you just tell your mate, I'm going in there now. I'm going to hit go live. Can you tell me what it sounds like? Preferably someone else who knows a bit about music, so that you can tell where the audio source is wrong. But as far as I know, Cherry, the Ableton Live, what it will be doing is we'll be combining your vocal input with what's running in Ableton. There's probably somewhere where you can set the balance of, what the level that's coming from Ableton with the level from the microphone, but it won't be a bad sound source, because your audio card still does the processing for Ableton. I mean, that's what they're for. If you're using a sequencer, you should have disabled your onboard sound card, and it should actually be using your audio interface anyway. Check you've disabled your onboard sound card, actually. You know how to use Device Manager, right? So something that's like System Settings, Device Manager, disable the one that's not got the brand of your audio interface on it. And Ableton will be using that. It's just the mix. The mix might be a little off, but if you sound check with someone, they'll tell you. Yeah, do just go into Device Manager and just disable it. You don't need to deinstall it, just disable it, because if you've got them both enabled, it can lead to hardware conflicts, and that's the only other caveat I've ever encountered using the simpler platforms, as well as people that haven't disabled their onboard sound card, because now and again the software just won't know which one to use, and it will die. Yep, you do, because the sound coming out of Ableton should be perfectly pristine, actually. It'll just, there might be issues with the balance between vocal and whatever you're running from Ableton, an entire rest of the band or whatever. But yeah, whoever's sound checking you will be able to tell you that. Yeah, there could be a conflict, or it might actually just be trying to use. If you've got stuttery sound, that's usually a sign that it's using the onboard audio processor, because the audio interface cards, they won't stutter. They're high-end things. Even the ones that are touted as home studio, I've used the things to record albums. They're really good. They're really good pieces of kit. They don't stutter. So it will be, if it's doing that, it will be using your onboard sound card. Right, we have 10 minutes to go. Random question time. Who's got a really random question? There's a prize for the most random question. Still has to be to do with online performance. Yes, good idea, Cliff. Yeah, a lot of us by now, right? You probably recognise quite a few names in the list, right? What works really well is the back-to-back performance thing, because really it's just for a lot of us, coming into NuMuBu is like a nice way to spend the evening. If we're just watching telly, it's a bit lonely and depressing. It's got nothing to do with music. It's probably hideously boring. If you come into NuMuBu, you actually get that feeling. Oh, nice friends, great music. There's stuff going on. If it's over after an hour, it's sometimes you don't want it to be. So it's actually really nice if you know that someone else, that's a musician friend, can play in the hour after you or the hour before you. or even a series of hours that carry on. It's really nice for viewers to be able to spend the time, here as long as they like. So what I tend to do is the chained intros thing. There's me and a friend of mine called Neil. We know each other really well. We're both from London, and he usually plays after me on a Wednesday. So what we'll do is I'll introduce him, and if there's someone that we've got a friend of ours that's after him, he'll introduce them. So it really helps to sort of keep the people that, also the listeners, that they want to be spending more time in here, but also you as the musician, you want the people that were at the show before to actually come and check you out, particularly if you're new. So the chained intros thing, all it is saying at the end of your show, we got, this performer up next, here's the link to their profile page. So after I log out, just, use this link to find their profile page and go check them out. And then you'll see a bunch of the people that are just in the show you're at. You can carry on your conversations and your fun, and you can check out some new music. It's nice if the theme fits, but even when it doesn't, it's actually just a really great way for people to discover new kinds of music, and for you to get the best crowd that you can as a musician. So do organise those. If you don't know anyone that's playing online, you'll get to figure it out when you spend more time in NuMuBu. There's quite a few of us that gig regularly. You can also go to the what's on page and just see what's happening. So if you decide, because Terry Lynn's from the States, right? So let's say you decide, I'm going to go up after Terry Lynn because that time fits. You might want to drop Terry Lynn a message saying, hey, would you mind doing, an intro before I come on, because I'm on immediately after you. If you see someone's on immediately after you, you might want to say, hey, I'm happy to introduce you. Just give me your link, that sort of thing. It is a very, everyone's sort of very on a level here and very, very open and welcoming. So do that. Well, I've missed a whole bunch of stuff. That was probably me too, Gio. I hope you get on here soon. It does, yeah, it does. Stands for New Music Business. I'm just scanning. Pairs, I have no idea what that comment meant. Back-to-back streaming, that just means the intros thing. So like I play on Wednesdays at 7 my local time, and my friend Neil plays at 8 my local time. So at the end of my show, I just say, Neil Hoffman's up next, here's his link. That's back-to-back streaming, when you know that something's coming on straight after you. We don't stand there with our backs to each other doing a solo, though, we could. You do, cool. Sometimes I've missed the chat, so it's not always apparent. But thank you guys for coming along. Another thanks to GHS Strings, Hiwatt, and the NuMuBu for making this happen. And Breedlove Guitars, actually. I thought you could see my new. Oh, you can. I've still got flight tags. If you want to see it, come along tomorrow. It's a very, very cool guitar. It's my favourite. Oh, cheers, Chris. Now, if you do have any questions, also you can always hit NuMuBu themselves up for it. Chris and Rob are really great at answering questions about online streaming and how things work here in NuMuBu. I mean, they are musicians themselves. They set this up because they're musicians who like music. They're not like a lot of the other sites are set up by corporates, right? And they think, oh, how can we make money out of lots of people, especially musicians? So that's why I don't like them. But NuMuBu are not like that at all. And that's why, I've ended up doing lots of work with NuMuBu because they're very, very approachable people. That they're as much part of the family as the people that make these things happen. So do fire them emails if you've got any questions. Of course, the other option is gigs in space. And particularly if you want to go further afield into the world of cyber gigging as well. I do always recommend you do both, okay? NuMuBu is the key place to start and the key place to keep gigging. But if you want to quit, if you're actually aiming at quitting your day job, you've got to play in the VRs as well. So those are your ports of call. But they are exactly live at NuMuBu.com, and that's how you can get Cliff and Rob. They are very, very helpful and fantastic. So do drop them a line. Oh, thanks, Stefan. I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, that's a good idea. I didn't actually go through the nitty gritty of actually posting. Once you've set up your gig, right? I said, like I said, sound check privately. Don't advertise the sound check. You get your mate to log on when you do your broadcast and check your sound. And then when you've decided on a day and a time, It should be a day and a time you can stick to, preferably. You go into the list of live broadcasts in NuMuBu, and you enter it there as well. So that all the people that use NuMuBu every day and just sort of trek around looking for stuff that's interesting, they need to be able to see it. So if you enter it in there, they will see it. And that's how you get, that's how you grow your crowd, because those are people that may not have heard of you, but they want to check you out. Because like I said, NuMuBu is a very social environment. You don't want to just be inviting your friends via email that's the same people every time. You want to actually list them in the live broadcast section on the site as well. It's vital. It's vital to advertise. Yeah. Oh, the booking in. I can, Geo. Head to gigsandspace.com. There's a couple of I don't know what the lighting's like on this. There's a couple of free videos on the site too. If you go to gigsandspace.com, just mostly on the why of online performance. But there's a few other resources there as well, so do check it out. There's also an article that's come out in Sound on Sound this month, Sound on Sound, so February's Sound on Sound on online performance and why you should be doing it. So if you happen to subscribe to Sound on Sound, check that issue out. It's the one with, actually I've got that here as well. This one with the article on the loudness wars. Okay, if you haven't subscribed to Sound on Sound, you probably should. It's like the industry standard. Very good magazine. All right, guys, thank you. And if you have not seen an online show yet, and we're here just to see what's possible, how it's possible, but you haven't seen an example of it yet, I'm on at this time, as in the time I started today, I'm on tomorrow doing an actual live performance with music. And my friend Neil is up after me, so you'll get a couple of chances to see how that works. And I don't mind at all if you ask technical questions during the show. I mean, it's a very social thing anyway, the online performance. So if you want to know how I'm doing thing X, then just ask in the chat. That's all good. All right. I'll keep an eye out for another few questions. I've got 2 minutes, so if you've got short questions, I can answer them. Oh, cheers, Banjo John. It'd be cool to play to you. It's loads of fun. Oh, I'll type that one in for you, Geo. It's gigsandspace.com. That one. And it'll point you to some YouTube videos as well. But yeah, and also it points you to the right place to order it from, because unless you're actually in the UK postage is hideous. So I don't want to pass on a horrible postage cost to you guys in the States. So that the ones in the States ship from NuMuBu themselves. So there's a few postage options there so that we can keep the cost down for you. No worries. Right, and also these webinars are going to be running at least once a month. So do feel free to check out when the next one is. We're going to keep them pretty much regular, but if you run into issues with things, just turn up to the webinars, ask away, or like I said, email Rob and Cliff. But each month we're going to be able to tell you what to do. So whatever you want, really. Okay. Right now, everyone's name has vanished. It might be because it's on the hour. It might be because my browser's doing odd things. But thank you very much for being here. It's always a pleasure spending time with you guys. So good luck, and I hope to see you playing very, very soon, because it's just as much fun for me to watch you guys as it might be to get this sort of information. Okay, so have a good one, and hopefully see you tomorrow. All right, bye.